Hello there and welcome to Montclair's Lair Halloween vlog for 2016. This is episode 7. Today we're going to go back and do a little bit more work on our prop controller and have a look at the software that runs it. But I did realize in watching my very long last episode that I missed a few things, specifically where to get the installation files for the Button Banger software. So we're going to cover that real quickly right now. Head on over to buttonbanger.com. And this is the first screen you'll see, and you want to go over to the 4Banger link. First of all, I'd recommend getting the 4Banger manual. For whatever reason, it's not included in the documentation in the full kit that Mike has available. And if you scroll down, there is a link here that says download, or click here for the official download package. And this is the package that contains all of the documentation and the 4Banger software. Real short download. It's only 7.7 megabytes once you get it. Your screen may look a little differently than mine. I don't use some of Windows built-in functions, but one way or the other you're going to get a window that pops up with this called 4Banger, and the easiest thing to do is just install that onto your desktop or onto your C drive. And for me, I'm just going to install it through the root of my C drive just so you get an idea. You can also do that with my computer. You can bring that up and navigate to your C drive. So just get to the root of your C drive, as it's called. You can just drag and drop this out of there onto your C drive, and then you'll have this 4Banger folder that we just opened up, and this is where the software would be located. The documentation is located in here. You don't even really need to worry about that, because once you start the 4Banger application, the documentation is all available right here from the View Help menu. All of these PDF files, the documents are all right here for you to select and open up. So that's that. The second thing I wanted to do was, because the video was so long yesterday, 43 minutes, I wanted to show you how quick it is to actually build one of these things. So I've got another Arduino here on my desk that I'm going to build. It's right here. This is the one that I made yesterday, and this is how quick it is to actually do one of these. And I'm just going to go right at it. And I can even talk about what I'm doing while I do it, but I'm not going to take a whole hell of a lot of time. I've pre-stripped my wires from my power. And for the ground, I'm going to be using brown wires instead of black. The rest of the wires are right here on the strip. My Pir sensor, my relay, and my MP3 player. The Pir sensor, and again, just to show how ridiculously easy this is, paint by numbers. We're going to use the same colors as in the diagram. For the Pir, it's pin number 2 is yellow, and that goes to A5 on the Arduino. Done. We can do the power right now on those two. On that also, I mean. That's pin number 1. The ground wire. And if you recall, we're going to combine those with the other power and grounds from the other components. So the Pir is effectively done. Let's do the MP3 first, because that's simple enough. That's a green on the top. Pin number, the RX pin on the MP3 player. And that goes to pin 10 on the Arduino. That's done. The power here on VCC, and then the ground. Okay, that's done. And let's do the relay finally, the big one, the one with the most connections. And we'll go again right from left here just to keep it easy. First one is going to be the power. VCC. Next one is an orange, which goes to in number 4. That's the next pin. Next one is a yellow. I'm even taking the time to pull the correct colors out just so there aren't any mistakes. Doing this by the colors is it's like paint by numbers. Like I said yesterday, very simple. Need a green here. Pulling off a green for the next one. This is IN2. N2 pin. And then the N1 pin is a blue, which we've got right here. And then the last one is going to be ground, which is right here. Okay. Got all the wires coming out of the relay. Let's hook them up to the Arduino. And in order, it's going to be orange. Red we're not going to do. That's going to be spliced together with something else. Orange goes to A3 on the Arduino. Okay. The next one is the yellow. That goes to A2. Done. Next one is green. Goes to A1. And the last one is blue, goes to A0. Alright, we do actually have a couple more to connect here. And this is our power and ground, and that's all that's left here. So what we do is take all of the reds, and along with the piece that we cut off like in yesterday's video, this will be our connection. Get this going here. And again, soldering this is definitely something I want to do. I put some heat shrink on this for protection, but just for illustrative purposes. That now goes to the power on the Arduino with 5.5 volt. And this is the last one. Now we're going to do the ground wires. Same thing. That connects to the ground on the Arduino. That's it. Done. Wiring done. Like I said yesterday, very, very simple. This is a wire by numbers project. So now I've got 2 finished prop controllers wired. Of course, this one I need to program, and I probably shouldn't have connected all this stuff yet to do that. So Mike mentions that you need to not have anything hooked up to the Arduino before you program the firmware for fear of toasting it, because you don't know what input-output pins get grounded and whatnot. Okay, so I decided I would go ahead and try to put the firmware onto. I've got a blank Arduino, another one that I haven't even done anything to, and of course this one that I wired up. I pulled off the power and the ground, and I think that should be sufficient to alleviate any issues with any sketch that may be running. That's Mike's concerns. I'm positive these Arduinos have nothing on them. No previously loaded programming, so it's not really an issue. But I'm running into a problem. When I connect this, my computer is not recognizing it. And we had this issue yesterday. Now if I go and I plug in my one that I've already done, which is right here, you'll see that it is recognized as an Arduino Uno. So I'm not exactly sure what the reason is for that, but if you're going to be doing more than one of these, that could be a problem. So we're going to investigate that because I want you guys to be fully educated on how this stuff works to the best of my abilities. This seems to be a not uncommon problem. Several people are having this issue with certain Unos, and it may be because they're knockoffs and not using certain chips. So a lot of people have had success with downloading this additional driver package, which I just went and got. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on and see what we can get out of that. Let's put this on and see what happens. Okay, so I'm running the setup file and it's selecting this INF file. Let's go for it and see what happens. And we're just heard the computer recognize something. And we're hearing all of these beeps, and it looks like Arduino is now flashing. That may have been the solution. Well, we do see this USB serial CH340 on COM4. Let's unplug that. Try a different one. Also being recognized. Alright, so let's see if Mike's software is going to work with this Arduino Uno. If I had just taken the time to actually read Mike's page here at buttonbanger.com, he actually covers this. If you are using a Nano Uno clone, you may encounter the need for the appropriate drivers. One of the more commonly used ones may be downloaded by clicking the image below. So by clicking this, I actually get the same file, and he is hosting it right here on his website. You can see that down in the bottom left-hand corner. So just grab this file, install it, and that will make your Arduino and Uno clone show up properly in Device Manager. So let's launch Mike's application. I'm going to flash the firmware, upload firmware to Arduino, COM4, the proper selection, Uno, upload. And we've got the data uploaded into the firmware. I'm going to go ahead and unplug that unit. I'm going to connect my additional one that I've got here. And just to be on the safe side, I'm going to restart Mike's software. Go back over to the serial communication tab. Upload firmware. COM4 again, and upload. And again, success. So we've got the firmware loaded. So that was the solution. I will post a link to those drivers in the video description so that you can find them as well. Okay, so before we do anything with the controller software, let's record our ambient sound and our scare track. I've got Audacity opened up. This is free software. Just hit up Google. I'm going to do this real quick, and I'm not going to go over all of the intricacies of Audacity. Let me record my ambient track, and it's going to be very ambient. This is my ambient track. It's so ambient. Listen to the ambience-ness of ambience. Ambient. The word of the day is ambient. Ambience-ness. Alright, so that should be sufficiently ambient. Let me export that. Export audio as an MP3 file. And I'm just going to throw that into the, might as well just put it into the 4-banger directory. Just throw it in the sounds directory, why not? And we'll call this one demo ambience. If I can type MP3. Okay, we're done with that. Let's go ahead and record our scare track. Scary! This is a scare. Relay 1, Relay 2 scare. Relay 1. So scary. You're scared. The claw, it's coming to get you. You're afraid of the claw. I'm an idiot, but that was fun. So I will just increase the volume, amplify. Sure, well, let's allow clipping. We'll have it really loud. Go up high on this. Scary! Okay, there you go. I really bumped up the volume on that one. We'll just export that as an MP3 file, and we're going to call that demo scare MP3. Alright, so we've recorded our audio files, and we can move on to the 4-banger application. I'm reviewing the manual for the software that I downloaded from Mike's site at buttonbanger.com, and it's pretty detailed. He's got 12 pages here explaining what the thing is and how much it roughly costs and what you can do with it, and discusses the terminology that he uses. It's detailed, and you can get a good understanding of how to work the software just from reading this manual. So we're going to go along and go through this one bit at a time, just so that I can add whatever comments I may have on this. This is pretty straightforward stuff here. This lists the various sequences that you have. He calls it the controller tree. This is audio playback controls, play, stop, record. You can actually record from this application. This is the volume slider. These are the channel tracks, which are related to each relay. Your 1, 2, 3, and 4 relay, and these are when the relays are activated, and you'll be able to do this with the software program where you want this. And this is a waveform image representation of the audio. It's called the audio timeline, and these are the properties for whatever you've got selected at any particular time. He talks about TTL outputs as well. Further down here, TTL outputs allows you to view editing the properties of each of the 4 TTL output channels. That's the relays. Properties of each channel include display, color, blah, blah, blah. Let's have a look at that. And you can see over here, this is in the sample sequence. He has named output number 1 a red light, so that would be this channel. Output 2, he's got a comment. It's a solenoid for a head pop-up. 3 is a fog relay. 4 is a white LED strip, so this gives you an idea. And he's got this toggle high out. So let's say we wanted our red light on all the time. I think we could make that change and then upload that to the Arduino, and this red light would be on during the off sections, during the opposite areas here. Let's continue on. Let's go ahead and create our own new project, and we'll follow along with the instructions. To create a new controller project, choose File, New Controller from the main menu. Okay, let's do that. File, New Controller. And we'll call this controller name Demo. And then here we can pick our Ambient MP3, which we recorded a little while ago. Fortunately, it goes to my Documents directory instead of the same directory where the software is installed. So we'll just navigate over there. And this is for the Ambient. We'll select this. And then for the Scare MP3, we'll locate our demo scare file. We can change these. So we'll say this first one is going to be, we'll use one of my props for example here. We'll say Zombie Groom. Zombie Bride. This will be the spit, the rotating spit. And we'll call this one the Flame. Alright, so here's a real world application here. So let's assume I want the flame on all the time. So I'm going to toggle that high out, so that should be normally closed. Can we change colors? Oh, that's interesting. We can actually change colors here for each one of those. Wow, that's some impressive software, Mike. Not that we really need that, it's kind of clear here, but I guess for flame, let's do this. We'll make flame red. Not that it'll ever be off, but maybe maybe we'll want to flicker it or something. Could be an option. Alright, so we'll save that. And now we've got in the timeline here, scary. This is a scare. Relay 1. Relay 2 scare. Relay 1. So scary. You're scared. The claw, it's coming to get you. Okay, that's enough of that. So it's running the scare sequence, and this little grabber here looks like how you can scroll through the timeline, through the audio timeline, or the scare timeline. So this is what's going on. This is overall the properties for the Arduino, and this is for the scare sequence itself. So the display name is scare sequence. We can even change that. We can say boo sequence. I don't know why you'd want to, but you can. So for the boo sequence, I'm not even sure what the point of that is. So that he gives us the audio links here, so that's good. Some extra additional information here. The display name is demo. The PIR is normally low. That means it's not going to fire off until something triggers it. I don't know what recording lock is. Does Mike talk about that? Recording locks out the manual button board's recording button. Alright, we didn't actually build that part of the prop controller because I don't think it's necessary. We're just going to use a computer. Volume I talked about yesterday was extremely loud, and it's because it is cranked all the way up, so you could change that there. The ambient on delay setting allows you to turn off the ambient soundtrack completely if you don't want any ambient sound going on. But just for the sake of a demo here, we're going to change this to 5 seconds. This is the delay between when the controller is ready to react to the PIR again. So we'll want 5 seconds after the scare sequence. There is a boot delay option here, and Mike talks about it, that it's to help you avoid immediately triggering the props when they're turned on, and that option's right here. I would rather just have the things working immediately as soon as I turn them on, but you could do that if you want. So moving forward, the sequence duration is set to the same length as a selected audio file. If a different duration is desired, you may select a different endpoint by right-clicking on the ruler portion of the timeline. Say I click here, and I can right-click to set the end time, which I did. The WAV file still stays there. Scary! But that's where the sequence will end. So he makes a good point here. Since the scare audio track is only played once and doesn't have a loop, if your scare sequence is longer than the audio, there just won't be any sound during the portion of the scare that's playing. By scare we mean the relay triggering. So there's also an option in here to visualize peaks, and what that means is the software is going to allow you to select certain areas that are over a threshold determined by this button, and then that selects certain parts of the waveform, and then you can apply those peak areas as relay triggers. Okay, so we can do the entire thing like this. Hit visualize peaks, and anything that is peaky like that will trigger, and let's just have them trigger all of them. Range on all. Okay, so what you can see, what happened here is that we have created very quickly scare tracks for every single one of these peaks, and that is a really quick way, very smart way of doing that, Mike. Good job. That is a very quick way to activate this stuff. You'll see it here if we go ahead and run the sequence. Scary! You'll see them flashing. This is a scare. And those represent the Arduino relays. Very cool. So that can save you a ton of time with setting up your scare sequence if you're matching it up with sound, which I'm sure most people will be. This little thing here is toggle edit select mode. So if you're in select mode, you just select portions of the timeline to work with, to maybe apply, we can actually set the whole thing off right here if we wanted. In that range it wants off. What if we turned everything off? That's it. Very good. So you can easily delete stuff, and you could actually turn it on for the entire thing here, regardless of the sound. So this will save you a ton of time in doing this, and you can determine what you want to have apply to these various things by sliding this up and down. So I can go and turn off on that particular range if I want. I could even do more. But anyway, I think you get the point that this can be used to quickly create a timeline here, or a trigger sequence. The other thing you can do with this, go out of select mode and go into edit mode, and here you can actually draw where you want the relays to trigger. So let's just say you had one up here where there's no sound. You could do that too. And you can then time these. You can hot mark them as well. So you can create different sections. You can go diagonally. You can just draw all over this thing. And you can erase by right-clicking. And again, real quick erase. You can just select all, range off all, and slide that up and your whole thing is erased. So you're good to go for starting over. Very nice. Very well done. So once we have this however we want it, we can go ahead and send that up to the Arduino. And I'm going to do that now. You can save the project if you want to first. And now we're going to go over to the Serial Communications tab, connect to the Arduino, which is on not that COM, because unfortunately this program doesn't recognize when you connect an Arduino after the fact. You kind of have to do it beforehand. So I'm going to close the program, open it back up, and go over to the Serial Communication tab. You can see it's got COM4 now. We're going to connect to, let's go ahead and actually load my program. Actually, there it is, boost sequence in demo. So we know that we're in this file and we're in this scare sequence that we made. You can see the stuff over here. Let me add some stuff. And we're going to visualize peaks. Have all of these on for, we'll say, just the zombie bride or the zombie groom. So we'll range on for zombie groom. Okay? And then let's do some for the bride. Have them kind of interdispersed there. We'll probably want the spit to run all the time or most of the time. So during like this whole thing, maybe when the fire flickers out, we can shut it off a little bit. And let's move this to the end here by right-clicking in the ruler. And the flame should run all the time, and these should be the off points. So let's add a few more in there just for flickering. Alright, that's done. Let's save this. And let's upload it to the Arduino. We're going to connect by clicking that. It says connected. We've got the Arduino doing stuff. And I think we're going to go ahead and just hit upload all. Yep. Upload all. And now everything is getting uploaded. And what you can see here is that normally closed is now triggered on this relay. That's my fire. So that fire is running all the time because this switch is now closed all the time. And that's what that high-low on the TTL setting was. Very cool. So now I've just triggered the sequence, and there it is. It's doing its thing. And I don't have any speakers hooked up, but I can do that so we can hear that. But what we also have to do, though, is put the audio onto the SD card like we did yesterday. So let's do that first. And I have another SD card here for this one. So each one of these guys is going to have their own SD card. Okay, so I've just plugged in my SD card into my USB adapter and put that into the computer. Let's go ahead back to the software and export my audio to the SD card. Click this button and it's got my 2 tracks. Pick my destination drive, which is H, and transfer. And what you can see what happens here is that the software just renames the files to 001 and 002.mp3 and copies it for you. We talked about that in yesterday's video. So I'm going to pull that out of the computer and put that into the Arduino's MP3 player. I think just to be on the safe side, I'm going to disconnect the power. So I've just removed this from my SD card from my USB adapter. I'm going to plug this into the MP3 player. And now I'm going to plug my speakers into my MP3 player, or the Arduino's MP3 player. So that's all set. So we've got that plugged in, and let's go ahead and plug it back in to power. There is the Fire on. There's my ambient track playing. Okay.
Scary. This is a scare. Relay 1. Relay 2 scare. Relay 1.
Okay.
So scary. You're scared. The claw is coming to get you.
Alright. So we have successfully uploaded our own program into the Arduino. We've recorded our own sound. Obviously it's just demo sound, but you get the point. Now you know how to use the software. You can see how easy it all is, and for 20 bucks you can't be beat. I highly recommend that you pick one of these up. So over on Graves of the Grove's YouTube channel, I was chiming in on his video about the $20 prop controller. You can check him out there on YouTube. Jason Becker was saying that he would chain these together by taking one of the 4 relay channels and using that as the trigger for the next controller in line, which means you would sacrifice one of the channels, one of the relays, to have that connected to where the manual trigger is, which we don't have wired up at all, but it's up in this area here. And it's okay, it's not a bad idea. It's probably how I would have done it if I had even thought of that. So kudos to him for even coming up with that idea. But there apparently is a better way to do it. And according to the Pirates of North Court, and this was the fellow whose name I couldn't remember the other day, and my apologies, but he had a good idea, and his was that he actually does this already, and he's talking about the TTL pin 11 on the controller will momentarily put a low on pin 12 on the Arduino. So whether you triggered with a switch or whether you triggered with the passive infrared controller, that's going to give us a low on pin number 12. And that means that you can connect that to the TTL pin 11 of another controller. So when pin 12 on the Arduino, that gets triggered by the PIR or whatever, the first one on the line, we'll call him number 1, controller gets triggered, that's going to send a signal out on pin 12, and we can wire that pin 12 into pin 11 of the next Arduino prop controller, and then we can repeat this over and over and over and over and over again, so you can have an unlimited number of these. So we're going to actually test that out and see if it works. And I think if you can visualize, here is the ground going over to the switch, and in this case the switch is just going to be another Arduino. Okay, so the 11 is the trigger, so we're tied the 12 will be the output going into the next Arduino's 11, and we'll be connecting the grounds together on both of those. So let's go ahead and wire that up. Okay, so let's connect the 2 controllers together, and what we're going to do is go from pin 12 on the main controller, and we're going to connect that over to pin 11 on our secondary controller. Okay, so we've got those 2 pins connected, and let's connect the ground from the master controller, which is signified by the Pir sensor. This will be the one that sends the trigger And we'll connect that to the ground on the secondary controller. And what I think we should do here wasn't specified, but I think common sense dictates that I should disconnect the PIR from the secondary controller. And let's go ahead and put the sound onto the primary. And I'm going to need a secondary power for this other Arduino, just to make sure. A center positive running at 9 volts DC. Okay, so a quick Google search reveals that 9 volt is acceptable. The upper limit for the Arduino R3 is around 12 volts, so 9 volt is ideal actually. And hope we don't blow up the world here. Okay, the moment of truth here. Let's plug this sucker in. Okay, it looks like it's working okay. We haven't burned anything up yet. Let's apply the power to the master in the form of this USB connection. I see no smoke, I don't smell anything. So we may have done something right. So let's see what happens. There you go, proof of concept. Okay, this one's still going, and this one, yikes. And you can see how you can get an interesting effect here. So this one's still in wait mode. So what you could probably do in the second one is get rid of the delay, any delay. So as soon as this fires again, this one fires. So let's do it again. So we're hearing the audio from the first one. I don't have speakers hooked up to the second one. But okay, this trigger sequence is done and it's back in wait mode. This one's still going off. So you can do some really cool shit here. So thanks to Pirates of the North Court for that tip, and that is some neat stuff, proof of concept. So there you go, guys, that is it. You've now built at this point we have an 8-channel controller with independent controls over here. We can program however we want. With this one triggering that one just by getting triggered from this PIR sensor. So you could even save yourself the expense of whatever these are. I forget how much, but however a couple of dollars these things are, you don't need to buy them. If you're just gonna wire these together, just toss it out. You don't need it. Okay, so in the can't leave well enough alone category, I actually decided to reconnect the sensor on the secondary controller just for ha-has, just to see what would happen. And that's this one over here. And what actually happens is it triggers by itself. So again, more possibilities if your guests are in a certain part of the haunt, and maybe you have a really short sequence here, and while this one's still going off, this one can get triggered again. So multiple times. Let's say you had a 10-second, or let's say you had a 30-second sequence going on this one, and you have a 5-second sequence on this one. So this runs 30 seconds, instantly triggers this to run for 5 seconds. That stops, your guests walk by, they hit the PIR sensor, and it goes off again. Now, this one only went off because it got a view of what I was doing. But that is some pretty cool stuff. Just amazing. You can't, I don't even know if you can do that with a prop controller that you can buy from any place. I've never heard of anything like that. So that's very cool stuff. Leave the PIR connected and it will give you that trigger. And let's assume that was a 5-second thing. You're golden. That section of your thing is going to run. Your haunt is going to run independent of this, and also in conjunction. So you have independent and cooperation between these controllers, which is really neat stuff. There we go. Cool. So thanks for tuning in to episode 7 of the vlog. I hope you learned something. I know I did, and I had a good time actually getting this stuff to all work together. And make sure, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. It should be down here, the little Montclair icon. You can click that and you'll be able to subscribe. And when you do so, you'll get notifications about future videos that I make. Also, if you like the video, give me a thumbs up. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them, and I'll be happy to discuss any of this with you. So thanks again, and I will see you guys next time. Because the f***ing thing won't come out. Oh my god. Hello there, and welcome to Montclair. Greetings and welcome to Montclair's Lair vlog. That's bullshit. Alright, I have to piss.